Look at the Empire State Building today, and it looks like an inevitable success. It sits at the center of the world's most famous skyline and holds a valuation of over $2 billion. But when its doors first opened, it was widely considered a commercial disaster. To understand why it almost failed, we have to go back to the 1920s. At the time, if you were going to spend millions constructing a massive skyscraper, you built it in Lower Manhattan. That was the established financial center of the world, where the demand existed to actually fill an 80-story building. The developers behind this project made a massive contrarian bet. They believed the business center of New York was slowly creeping northwards, so they spent $16 million to buy up the old Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Midtown. They immediately demolished the hotel. What they were left with was a sprawling 400 by 200-foot lot. In New York real estate, a footprint that wide is extremely rare, and it gave them the exact foundation required to support the tallest structure on Earth. But building up presented a major constraint. New York zoning laws dictated that buildings couldn't simply go straight up from the sidewalk. They had to slope backward as they rose to avoid plunging the streets below into permanent shadow. This animated diagram shows a standard stepped building next to a unique alternative. The city had written one specific loophole into the zoning rules. If developers could drop their footprint to just 25% of the total plot area, they could punch right through that sloped line and ascend straight into the sky. The architects aggressively exploited this rule. They initiated severe setbacks early in the design, slicing away the building's edges on the 5th, 20th, and 30th floors. Once they hit that 25% threshold, the remaining central tower shot straight upward for more than 40 consecutive stories. This straight vertical climb created incredible internal efficiency. By pushing the necessary elevators into a tight central core, they freed up the perimeter. Every floor contained a 28-foot ring of premium window-facing office space. They had successfully engineered 3 million square feet of highly profitable floor space. The only problem was the timeline. To actually capture that profit, they had to construct the whole thing in record time. The New York City commercial real estate market operated on a very rigid calendar. There were exactly 2 lease dates, May 1st and October 1st. If a building missed its target completion date, it sat completely empty for months, bleeding millions of dollars. The developers set their target for May 1st, 1931. That left the team with barely over a year to construct a building larger than anything ever attempted. To move fast enough, they relied heavily on prefabricated steel. The structural columns and beams were virtually identical, meaning they could be mass-produced in factories, shipped straight to the site, and bolted into place with minimal on-site modification. The logistics were military-grade. Over 3,000 workers swarmed the site. They laid temporary railway tracks on each floor to push material carts at high speeds. They installed small, localized cranes throughout the framework to pass beams upward quickly. They even built restaurants directly inside the skeleton, so workers didn't lose time traveling to the ground for lunch. They averaged 4 entirely new floors every single week. The execution was flawless. The entire structure was finished a full month ahead of schedule, coming in at $25 million, $10 million under budget. The doors opened to enormous fanfare. But while the engineering team had beaten the clock, the developers had lost to the economy. The Great Depression was ravaging America. The financial collapse was absolute. 12 million people had lost their jobs across the country, and national wages dropped by 45%. Companies were shutting down, not expanding into luxury midtown offices. The timing was a disaster. Out of those 3 million square feet of perfectly optimized premium office space, the developers couldn't even rent out a quarter of it. Locals quickly started calling it the Empty State Building. They had won the construction race and secured an incredible location. But with the commercial office market effectively dead, their primary business model was worthless. On paper, the project was financially ruined. What kept the lights on wasn't corporate real estate, it was tourism. The developers had placed an observation deck on the 86th floor, offering panoramic views high above the rest of the city. At $1 a ticket, it drew over 1 million visitors in its very first year. Then there was the very top of the building. The developers originally designed the massive towering mast as a docking station for passenger blimps. Transatlantic airships, however, never really caught on. But the mast turned out to be the perfect physical height for an emerging technology: television. NBC leased out the 85th floor, installed a 50,000-watt transmitter, and started testing the world's first high-powered broadcasts. Because the mast was so tall, those signals cleared all interference and reached across 4 different states. Soon, 9 different stations were paying to broadcast from the top of the tower, generating $600,000 a year for the building's owners. These completely non-corporate features, a tourist deck and a radio mast, became a vital financial hedge. They provided a steady stream of cash that kept the enterprise from collapsing entirely while the national economy slowly recovered. This chart breaks down the building's revenue today. Leasing the massive core of premium office space pulls in $350 million every year. But those historical pivots didn't go away. Viewing platforms generate $130 million annually, and transmission antennas add another $30 million. And that initial $16 million land purchase, it paid off exactly as they predicted. The business center of New York did migrate north, placing the building right at the pulsing heart of Midtown Manhattan. The Empire State Building survived the Great Depression through brilliant engineering and brutal efficiency, but it thrives today because of its adaptability. By accidentally discovering a highly diversified revenue model, the developers turned a single city address into an enduring $2 billion empire. Almost a century after it was built, the Empire State Building still pulls in more than $500 million every single year. Purely as a money-making asset, this aging structure continuously beats the modern, state-of-the-art skyscrapers surrounding it today. That massive profit margin is no accident of history. The original designers secured this long-term success by solving a rigid mathematical and physical equation. In the 1920s, Manhattan was experiencing a massive economic boom, but the city was constrained by the hard physical limits of an island with almost no remaining land. With nowhere to go but up, developers kicked off a race into the sky, stacking floors to dizzying heights, mostly driven by personal ego. But businessmen John Raskob and Al Smith saw skyscrapers differently. They viewed these massive towers entirely as standalone business entities. Their strategy was straight to the point: continuously stack floors of rentable office space to create a self-sustaining financial product. However, building tall carries a strict physical penalty. Extreme height demands a heavily reinforced, incredibly thick base to support millions of pounds of steel and concrete. That required structural reinforcement actively cannibalizes the rentable square footage on the ground levels. Eventually, adding another floor at the top requires so much structural support at the bottom that the building begins losing money. That physical weight penalty is the core constraint of the skyscraper equation. On top of the physics, New York City enforced strict zoning rules to prevent these massive structures from plunging the streets below into permanent darkness. The legal constraint was a strict 25-degree sloped line drawn from the street center that buildings couldn't cross. The obvious solution is filling this space, creating a solid pyramid. But assuming maximum square footage equals maximum profit is a fatal error. The design is financially toxic. The first variable ruining the pyramid shape is the sheer spatial logistics of vertical transport. Call it the elevator tax. A massive pyramid base holds thousands of people. Avoiding catastrophic delays in the lobby requires dozens of elevator cars. All of those elevator shafts have to travel up through a building that is continuously narrowing. This cross-section illustrates what happens at the top. The sheer volume of required elevator shafts overwhelming the peak consumes almost all the available floor space. Solving the ground floor traffic problem mathematically bankrupts the highest levels, turning the pyramid into a logistical trap. The second variable is the extreme inequality of real estate value, based entirely on altitude. Down near the street level, the offices were noisy, blocked from the sun, and commanded a mere $1 per square foot. By contrast, the high-altitude floors were bright, quiet spaces specifically designed for executives. Those premium, window-adjacent spaces brought in up to $3 per square foot in yearly rent. The pyramid shape gets this entirely backward. It maximizes the lowest value, dirt-cheap real estate at the bottom while choking out the highly profitable premium space at the top. Raskov and Smith realized to engineer a true money-making machine, they had to invert the model. They needed to minimize the cheap base and maximize the premium high-altitude real estate. This diagram shows the optimal architectural shape to achieve that goal, a tall, perfectly straight rectangular tower. But a tall, straight building violently violates the city's 25-degree zoning limit. This sets up the core paradox of the skyscraper equation. Pure economics demand a straight tower, but the law strictly enforces a sloped pyramid. The designers had to figure out how to beat these impossible constraints and assemble an engineering giant that would stay profitable for a century.